On the stage. By the way, Jared is a little bigger right now than what you've seen on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a nice, warm 20th anniversary Quantum Leap welcome to Michael Gregory again. There you go. The lovely Miss Jane Sibbett. She told me to pronounce it like a frog. Sibbett. David Newsom. The grown-up Jared Lennon. The lovely and gracious Carolyn Seymour. And Donna Magnani. I'm missing one more. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to your appreciation society here. Michael, we've talked to you in the last panel. You had some fantastic stories to tell. The audience loved it. I've worked with Ms. Seymour before over in Germany for an event. It was a Star Trek related event when she was, of course, a Romulan. And then the rest of you, those that remember, and the rest of you, welcome.
Thanks, Mark.
Hello, and
Hello.
if you could just start off by telling the audience who, what, and well, they don't need to know who you are. We all know who you are, but what you've been doing, your relationship to Quantum Leap, and what has propelled your career even further after Quantum Leap, which I'm sure it did.
All at once?
All right. All at once.
Okay. On three.
Harmony, tempo.
In 5, 4, 3.
Let's start off with Donna down at the end.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Work our way back.
Hi, everybody. I don't have a Russian accent. And I don't have prosthesis on today. Thank you for coming, everybody. It means a lot. It's been 20 years or more. I've just been busy. More importantly, I've been a mother, so I think that's primary for me. And she's in the audience somewhere, my little peanut. And anyway, Quantum Leap was a great experience, and I'm sure we'll get into that more, but I'm just so happy to be here, and it was a thrill working on the show. Scott is a great guy, and the producers are wonderful, and the writing is flawless, so I know that you guys are fans of the show, and I'm a big fan too, so go ahead, take it away.
Hi guys, Carolyn Seymour, hi. The evil leaper. I must say, people always ask me what my career has been really, and I basically I've just played murderers. I've killed everybody. I've murdered all my family, all my relations, family relatives. I mean, I'm very good at murdering husbands, and I'm pretty good at murdering my children. So it's sort of like scary, and I've learned to do it in every way possible. And the most exciting, I think, was having a blaster in of LA. I was stuck down there for a while with a it was very odd, on a tricycle with an enormous Samoan bodyguard, and I didn't know what to do. And anyway, and then now I've sort of graduated a bit. Now I'm doing theater a bit more than I'm doing anything else, and that's it really. I mean, I haven't done a lot since then. It's been like a sort of ghastly downward slide on the razor blade of age, really, and it's sort of hanging on, trying not to give up. But I'm writing now, and my life is much more serene. But I do theater, and I do write, and I don't know about film and television anymore. It's sort of eluding me, but hopefully it'll come back. They're going to have to want demented, enraged grandmas at some point. So, you know, maybe I'll stop dyeing my hair, and I can be a great grandma. But I'll start doing that sort of stuff, I think, probably. But anyway, thank you for coming, and it's lovely to be here. 20 years is just too, I don't even like to think about it. So, you know, I'll just sit here in a geriatric heap.
Okay, remember the last cycle we had in the
Enjoy, follow that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Thank you for the setup. Hello, all. I came from an interesting perspective on this one. I was a fan of the show, but I was also 8. So being a child actor on the sets gives you a fun angle because you don't necessarily have a lot of the preconceived notions about some of the cast members. And a lot of people who may be well known to most people when you're a kid, they're just someone you're working with. So that was kind of nice on this show and many others to get to meet this cast and just meet them as people. And I had a blast on this show for that very reason. They were wonderful people to work with. I especially had great memories of Charles Rocket, who I worked with years later. And again, I had no clue who he was at the time, which gave me a great angle on him. And that's someone I definitely deeply miss. But my career went on after this show, which this was an exciting one for me. As I said, I was a fan. I had the good luck of having done several shows I was fans of beforehand. So that was good for me. And the show, I watched every episode before and after that with great excitement. Last few years, I've refocused my life on my family and more stable, regular work, which is very odd for me. I still have, you may sympathize, I still have the dreams. You walk on the set that day and no one's handed you a script and you're just expected to perform. Those still go through me frequently. So I'm gonna get back into it in a few years, but right now I need to focus on stability. But this was a highlight for me. It's always been an exciting part of my resume. It's something I mention when people ask, what have you done? You always have to have those bullet point highlights of the things they'll remember that matter, and this is always one of them.
David,
What?
what's going on in your life?
Hello, everybody. This is very surreal. I can't see any of you. I feel like we're at the MacArthur hearings. Are you now, or have you ever been? Well, I have a million thoughts about this because I had been an actor for about 15 minutes when I got this job. I literally had never acted in my life, and so. Oh, thanks. It was all a blur, trust me. No, it actually wasn't a blur. It was probably one of the most seminal events in my life because, one, it was the first time I ever acted. It was the first time I was ever on a major set on the other side of the camera. And it was also my introduction to a kind of television and a kind of lead actor. I mean, Scott Bakula was easily the most hard-working, committed, unruffable? What's the word? Unflappable.
Yeah.
Unflappable, dedicated lead actor I've ever met. And I've probably done about, 70 episodes of television since, mostly, by the way, killing people. Killing people, betraying them, behaving badly. But Scott was, and I would guess, continues to be one of the most dedicated, disciplined lead actors I ever met, and so he set a standard for me. But there was so many, everything. There's so many firsts on this show that. But I'll lead with that one.
Susan?
That's it.
I'm actually Jane.
That's what I said.
But he pictures you as Susan.
Oh, well, I know. You're getting a little confused, but that would be my lesbian wife on Friends. It's Susan. I'm people confuse that all the time. All right. So I am Jane Sibbett. You can Sibbett, not R-T. Okay. All right, Brian, that's the last time I'll review.
Sibbert? How do they spell it?
Yeah, Sibbert. It's not Sibbert. Okay. Hi, I'm Jane, and I'm so glad to be here. I, too, have...
Are you really who they say you are?
No, I am in disguise. Working with Scott was a dream from the get-go. The day that I got the job, I think actually they called me into the same day that I read. I was called into wardrobe. And from wardrobe, I think this was standard procedure. I don't think it was just for blondes. I was sent down to the set to meet Scott, that he always liked to meet his guest stars before they worked with. Is that right? Did you guys
No.
do that?
Different story.
What's your special?
Well, it worked out great, perhaps because it was such a difficult episode being handcuffed to Scott Bakula for 10 days, that he had to make sure that he could hang with someone like that for so long and go through literally the mud. Again, as David said, he truly was all that you would dream to work with as an actor, professional, but also he engendered such love on the set with his crew. Between scenes, he would whip out a hammer and he would take down the set. And we had a quick turnaround. He'd go to the next set and he'd start ripping down the flats.
Move lights.
He would move lights.
Move stuff.
He never believed that it was never a hierarchy. I'm sure you've heard this before with other panels, but that is so rare in this business. And again, like David said, he also set a standard for me that it is not cast, and crew. It is a beautiful collaboration, and he was just a joy to work with every way. So that's what we're start. Oh, since then I have had 3 children. I know that I worked 17 years ago because I have a 16-year-old, and I remember it was about a year after I worked with Scott that I had Ruby. Maybe 18
Was that
years, maybe 18
anything to
years
do
ago.
with working with Scott?
Of course it was.
Yeah, let's go back to the handcuff part.
And the lesbians.
This is a
daughter
saucy
here.
panel.
My 16-year-old daughter is here. She's
Hello,
never
six-
met her
oh,
real father.
They know more than we do. I understand you have a production company in Hawaii? You're living
We
in Hawaii?
do. We just recently moved to Hawaii, and we have moved our production studio there, and we're actually building a soundstage there right now because there's not a soundstage on our island. And so we are actively producing television and have some films in pre-production already. So it's kind of fun.
Wow, we'll touch on that in a little
Yes,
bit.
yes.
To our actors, as you see people getting up and leaving the room, it's not because of you at
They don't
all.
like me.
We have an autograph session that's going on, and they show that row number up on the screen, and those people get up, go get their autograph, and they come quickly back to you.
Oh, I guess.
Okay?
Great system.
So don't feel free. All righty, we have some questions. Oh, I'm not skipping you, Michael, because we had you in the whole last panel.
Well, you had me the whole last panel, but doesn't mean I don't have something to say now. At least you didn't get my name wrong.
Did you meet Scott?
Scott and I were never handcuffed to each other.
My
All through the 70s, I owned a bodyguard company built around Dean Martin. I was with Dean for 10 years, worked for Cher, Elizabeth Taylor. Basically, my job was to get between them and some of the hardcore fans. So it's nice to be somewhere where fans are not trying to kill me. That's true.
Wait till Scott gets here.
Please don't ruffle the guest, okay? All right, we have questions over, let's take this side first. Ma'am?
Is this on? Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah. Jane, I just have to tell you that I watched you on Santa Barbara,
Oh my gosh.
and it was such fun because it was a soap opera that didn't really take itself too seriously. So when you showed up on Quantum Leap, it was really fun to see you with Scott, and you guys seem to really sizzle on the screen. I love Diane. She is one of my favorites. Did you feel like you guys had a chemistry? What was that like?
Yes. In a word, yes. Well, just imagine what it would be like to be handcuffed to someone so handsome and kind.
I've imagined it, yeah.
I mean, he was a total gentleman. He was just he's funny. He was so game to jump in the mud. And you know, and I've told the story before, but literally, when you have to jump out of a hayloft into a pile of manure with Scott Bakula and lie there for 3 hours, who cares? I mean, it was dreamy. I mean, I don't think I would leap into some manure for anybody else but Scott Bakula.
You know when
Maybe
you,
David Newsom.
Oh, wow. It's working out.
No, you know what? It's true. Well, we'll talk about our relationship later, but
We can talk about it now. I'm just kidding. Where's
love
your
David
daughter?
Newsom too.
Shtick. This is what you call a shtick.
He and Scott are like this.
you know when you pulled him into the telephone booth, you almost broke his ribs with the gun. Have you heard him tell that story? He's all bruised from the prop gun.
Oh baby, buck up. That's what I say, man up. Yeah, I heard that. You know, and then after day one with those handcuffs, I went home. My wrists were so swollen from the handcuffs. You know, because we went for it. They actually had to build me rubber handcuffs because they were so swollen. Scott, you know, of course, made sure they put ice on them. But, you know, we were handcuffed the whole time, so, baby. Now, I do remember that. That's funny. I hadn't thought of that in a long time, but it was weird.
But she still carries the handcuffs.
Yes. You know, I actually almost asked the prop person, can I have these, please? I've never been handcuffed since, but boy, was it a joy. Highly recommend the handcuffs. And you
This
can
has
tell.
been one hell of a day. All we were talking about in the last panel were breasts. Isn't that right, Michael? Now
I have
we're
nothing to
talking-
say about breasts. David, however.
Yes, sir,
Next
on
question.
that side. That way.
Good morning. Thank you for all coming out here. It's been a treat
There.
to see each and every one of you. This, however, is for Jane. Jane, I fell in love with you watching you on Herman's Head many, many years ago. Oh, and you were still an incredibly beautiful woman. So
Oh, bless you.
I'll see you later on.
Okay. Bring your handcuffs.
Okay, this convention has been officially canceled due to sexual content. No disclaimer on the screens and nothing. Janine, go for it.
Canceled or just lock the door?
Well, I want all the women up there, so okay. Janine.
Hi guys. Michael, I thought you looked great in that clip that was shown earlier on you with Terry Hatch. You looked great. Really nice.
And so did she, huh?
I'm not interested that way.
Fortunately, I still am, darling.
Jane, I thought you were so funny in that episode. It was so great. I would have loved to have been a so funny character, so strong. But she had a nice heart, you know. So that looked like a great lot of fun.
It was.
I think it's important for the panel to know who you are and the thing about the Social Security number, so please let them know.
No one's never going to let me forget that, Anna.
She actually answered the question, what was Sam Beckett's Social Security number? She knows it.
Hardcore leaper.
Hardcore.
Our fans are very knowledgeable about everything that you guys do. We have
Yes.
all of your addresses, your former telephone. We know your ex-boyfriends and girlfriends.
I've been a fan since the age of 9, and I've been watching it 18 years. Blimey, that shows my age. I'm sorry. I'm
your
getting
question?
sorry, I'm just getting tongue-tied a bit because I think David's quite cute.
One for me.
Sorry,
Handcuffs.
I get a bit tongue-tied.
Work it out. You're doing great, by the way.
How did you feel playing like Sam Beckett's brother? And Jarrett, I just thought, you so cute.
One for me, too.
Yeah, and
It's a clean sweep.
Yes.
and Carolyn, I have seen you in something where you haven't played a murderer. I saw you in something where you played a stripper in the 70s. Steptoe and Son.
Yeah, that's all I ever played
Yeah.
in the 70s, was strippers.
Yeah.
I took my clothes off a lot in the 70s. It was a requirement in England in the 70s to remove your clothes.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I
had to
mean,
take classes.
I just thought, I didn't even realise it was you until I went, wait a minute, isn't that? And I sat down, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I've got to ask you, Donna, what was it like to kiss Scott? I've got to ask that one.
Fantastic. Oh. You take it. We got that one.
Well, it was my first kiss, so. Okay, no, it wasn't my first kiss. A child in the audience. We have to keep this G-rated, people.
Kind of late now.
It was really professional. Okay, let's just keep it at that.
Right.
We talked about it before, and he wanted to know, if we wanted to take some breath mints. And we did. And it was kind of a rough situation, if you remember. So we had to take that over and over, and the director really wanted to keep taking that take. And I'm like, oh, mackerel. Lots of lipstick redos. And it was good. It was professional. Okay. I'll keep it at that.
And David, what was it like to play Sam's brother then, be part of the Beckett family?
It was actually, well, first of all, I didn't know anything about the show, so I didn't know the lore that sort of attended, the relationship between the two brothers. So I kind of just read the part and got it, and I had really long hair when I got the part, and I showed up for work and they shaved my head, and I thought I was going to die. I shaved, yeah, with a zip all the way down, and because I had just gotten out of, I was the Navy. I had just gotten out of the Navy, and I was gonna. Then he leaps into the body of a guy under my command as a SEAL platoon and SEAL squad. Sorry. Anyhow, but it was such a completely realized production, and the world of it was so. I mean, it's funny because when I think back about that show, I used to work crew, and I'm very respectful, and now I produce, so I work on that side of the camera as much, if not more. But I don't remember it. Like, all I remember is that reality. All I remember is the farmhouse and working on his basketball shot and the basketball game, and then being out in, we were out in Corona del Mar, and we shot all those Vietnam sequences, and it was so, such a beautifully realized production, and Scott was so intimately involved. Everybody was so intimately involved with the creation of that family that it made it, I literally had no experience in front of the camera, and it made it seamless. It was actually really seamless and really easy, and I bought into everything right off the bat. And that was something that they did so well, I think, in general on that production. I'm kind of amazed by it now, because television really has changed. And it's not that there isn't money, and it's not that there aren't great productions, there are. But there was a way. And first of all, there was the time that they could take, and they don't, shoot 18 hours a day now, and they control overtime and all those kind of things more. But it was seamless, and it was great. It was really, in a way, a great thing for me, because it set the bar really high, and in a way, a terrible thing, because I was like, oh, it's not all like this. But it was, I really couldn't give it enough hyperbole. I mean, it was a pretty seamless experience. It all felt like it was happening. And I went and trained with Navy SEALs and did Navy SEAL training before I shot the next episode. So that was really intense. It was really difficult, but it was really real. Yeah.
I just got to say I think that's one of my mum's favourite episodes, because my mum had a brother called Tom, and he died. And so when Sam went back to save his brother Tom, so my mum was always like, she went, she always brings a tear to her eye, and so.
Yeah. Oh.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen on the other side of the room.
Thank you. You all seem very, very accomplished, and it's wonderful that you're all here. Thank you so much for being here. Being a performer, I feel like must be an exercise in multitasking, I imagine, beyond just performing, the number of things that you often can do offset. David was saying that he had worked on crew, and now he's producing. Jane is in production, Carolyn's writing, and I was just curious, beyond performing, what you do to balance your time these days as well. Because I always find that really interesting to see kind of what the other side behind the performer is. That's all. That's my question.
Should we all go at once?
No, I mean, yeah, just starting with Donna, I guess, and
hi.
just going down. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Now, what is your name?
My name's PJ.
Hi, PJ.
Hi.
Are you a performer too?
I am. Yeah.
All right. It's a daily task of balance, and seriously, not to get too out there, but mind, body, and soul, right? Keeping it together spiritually, keeping it together with our body, just like everybody else, just like you, just like all you folks out there. We just do it. You go to your job, we go to our job, but in the interim, we got to keep it together and keep it healthy, because once you get on set, it's demanding. Getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting on set, sometimes 4-hour makeup, and then in between the takes, you have to keep it together and not fall asleep in your trailer, and have it together. And we work out. I work out. I actually teach fitness. I've been a professional dancer for 25 years. So I've been doing that, and I choreograph, and I do fitness, and that's my life, really. If I'm not working out or dancing, I feel unbalanced.
Cool.
Oh, yeah. Me too, I guess. It's like,
What have you been writing, for instance, recently?
I'm writing
Karen?
2 screenplays. I mean, and I've written some short stories, but the screenplays I had this extraordinary Russian grandmother who was a courtesan, really, basically a sort of upper class call girl. But she was an amazing human being, and she was odd and extraordinary and eccentric, and lived in Russia, and lived in was part of the royal court in Russia, and then ended up in London through various circumstances, and H.G. Wells and stuff like that. And then she died, and the death is what I'm writing about, because it was a complete black comedy. So that's one screenplay, and I already have somebody who wants to produce it, and I can't quite finish it. It's really interesting, because I know if I finish it, then I have to put her away, and I don't want to do that, because it was 35 years ago that she died. But I'll finish it. And then there's another one about the 5 women in my life that really shaped me. And I find that one more difficult because it's mostly to do with my mother and my other grandmother, both of whom were extraordinarily powerful women, and also very funny. My whole life is threaded with humor. And I also have a passion for the theater, and when you have to get up and do a honking great lead in the theater, you have to stay in shape. So I guess that I try and keep my brain functioning, because with the demise of every hormone in my body is the demise of every brain cell. And I live in terror of not being able to remember my lines. And so I have to do something every single day that encourages the regrowth of brain cells, which is sort of difficult when you're not working. So I do a lot of crosswords. I do a lot of sort of games with my brain. And I garden a lot, and I hike 5 miles a day. Normally, I can't right now because I have a broken leg. But I garden a lot, and I cook a lot, and I cater, and I do all sorts of things, really. I mean, I don't have a very stagnant day. My day is not, if I sit down by 8 o'clock, I'm doing well, and that's usually to eat something. So, that's how I keep going.
Cool.
For me, the majority of my career was in my childhood. So there's an interesting balance there, because there's a lot of Screen Actors Guild regulations around the number of hours we're allowed to work each day and the schooling time. So typically, depending on age, it was 8 or 9 hour maximum work days, and 3 hours of that had to be on-set schooling. So there was that balance, which was always a disconnect. You'd be pulled off the set. They decide, okay, how long will it take to reset? How long will it take to whatever the change is it enough time for him to go back to school? And so sometimes I'd go back, literally sit down for 10, 15 minutes, and then go right back to the set. And so that was always a difficult switch for me. It was really uncomfortable, because I wanted to just stick with why I was there. The acting was for me the whole purpose. And so I was homeschooled at the time too, so I could always do that at home. That wasn't why I was there, and that wasn't why I wanted to be there. So that was difficult for me. And of course, there were times, even though it wasn't allowed, overtime happens. And again, for me, that was why I was there. I enjoyed that. As I grew up, as I got older, I'm to say I'm a geek would be a pretty accurate statement. So technology has always been a big deal for me. So on the side, computers and video games, working on building computers. Eventually, for a while, got into web design, so I was designing websites for fellow actors.
Cool.
And so then, more recently, as I've had to get into more steady work to support my family, I've got a wife and two wonderful kids, and so my family time takes up a lot of my time lately, and now I work in the technology field doing network support. And actually, the last year, a lot of my time's been spent at the Los Angeles Center Studios. My company manages their entire network.
Oh, cool.
So it's been kind of nice, actually, still being connected to the industry, but just from a completely different angle. It's kind of peculiar, but at least I'm there. So that feels pretty good for now.
Cool. That's cool.
I like that. I should come work for you, because you're constantly needed. I come at this from such an oblique angle. I mean, I never, ever meant to be an actor, and I had no plan to be an actor. I went to school for filmmaking. I have a minor and double minor in art history and writing, and it was just something that I felt
Back of the room, ladies.
Can we please keep it down back there?
My man
Can we
is talking
please keep
here.
it down in the back? You'll have to stand outside if you want to talk. And please put the cigarettes out. So I really came at it as like, oh, this will be a lark, and let's see how far this goes. And I think, if and it goes up and down, and it really, for me, it brought me up against the wall of my commitment to being an actor. And what I have sort of cultivated over the years is profound respect for true actors and people who get up and they go to bed on all day. They're actors, whether they're on a TV show or a movie or in a whatever. They're actors. They're performers. I don't actually perceive myself as one of those people. I'm a creative person, and I like to make things. So I think to specifically answer your question, I make stuff, and that's what I do. I'm a creative person, and so if I found that I like this community and I like all aspects of it, and I really decided that I wanted to have a kind of, not mastery, but a command of all aspects of it, So in my downtime, I would shoot, and now I have a kind of a life as a fine art photographer. And I started producing about 6 years ago, and I've sold some shows and that kind of thing. And it's just been an accrued sort of desire to understand all of it and have a fluency with it. And then I think what everyone else has said is also this is the same for everybody. Body and mind. I mean, how do you keep yourself kind of disciplined and balanced? And that's whatever you got to do. But I mean, for anybody out there who is aspiring in this or toiling at it, I think as most of us actually are, it's never easy. The thing to do is to really do what you say you're going to do. Like whatever you're going to do, execute it. Like just keep pushing through and execute it. And that is there's an incremental sort of value in that. It just gets, because this business and whether you're going to work or whether someone's going to, it's so up and down. It's very capricious, and you can't base your ambitions upon that.
That one thing, right. Jane, you must feel like you're living the life, moving to Hawaii and having a production company.
She is.
Yeah, I know. How did you fall into that, if anything?
Well, because I just kept watching Quantum Leap episodes over and over again, I had to do something to give myself. How did I do that?
Yeah.
I firmly believe that life is too short not to completely go for all your dreams. And that was one of my husband's and my dreams, that we would someday live in Hawaii, and we wanted to do it before our eldest graduated high school, because we wouldn't leave her behind.
Right.
So we just said, let's go for it. Why not? And if it doesn't work out, we come back.
Right.
So we had a wonderful opportunity to do a movie with David Newsom, where my other best love scene was in that one too. He won't talk about that one, will he? But in terms of what I do for balance, and I play, I laugh. I surround myself with wonderful friends who love to laugh, and who, if they're not living their passion, they're working toward it. And I so believe it. We just all need to do that. So that's what I do. I swim with the dolphins. I hike with my children. I watch them play, and I play with them. And
That's great.
I think we all need to do that. So
Yeah.
that's my recipe.
When people ask me how you doing, my standard answer is every day is a holiday. And I figure it may not be Christmas, but at the very least it's Flag Day. And so I'm a cancer survivor. I've been involved with as many as 20 different charities a year. I've got my favorites. It's like every day that we wake up, people say, well, any day on this side of the earth is good. No, there are a lot of add-ons. And I've worked with a lot of people who are not as they don't have the advantages that we do, just in terms of being able to get up and get out of bed. And so, each day it's thank you for whatever I've got. And I take that into the world with me. And again, every time I have the opportunity to learn things, this last year has been almost totally, except for one FedEx commercial, been about voiceovers. I have been making a living doing cartoons, perhaps some of the things that you guys have seen. And I have been very fortunate. Monday I'm working for LucasArts on something, the Star Wars things. And I'm a certified hypnotist. As I said, I used to own a bodyguard company. I'm involved with the military, the Center of Influence program that the Pentagon started. And it's like each day it's thank you, what's my purpose today, and at night, thank you.
Excellent.
Well, thank you, everybody. That was great.
Okay, looks like you're lining up for questions here. Yes, ma'am, on this side.
Hi. First, let me say that was a great question and superb answers from everyone. I have really two questions. One's for David, one's for Jane. For David, since this was your first job, did you audition, and how did they see through the long hair to see a Navy SEAL? I mean, what did you think?
What did I think?
Well, I mean, when you were chosen, I mean, like you say, but
I actually had, and I no longer possess this ability, but when I first started doing this, I knew when I would get a part. I knew. I pretty much knew that I would get this part. I cannot articulate this any other way. There was a resonance between me and the script. And I knew that if I didn't get it, it wasn't going to be because I wasn't right. It was because, it was because I wasn't right in some physical sense. And it's funny because now in producing and casting projects, what I've learned is that 70% of the people who come into you, once they've gotten through a certain level, are going to be amazing. And maybe 90%, they're going to be great. One person will be right. Now, when you get into a network situation, there's this huge committee, and that kind of knocks that process out. But one person will be the essence of that role. They may drop their lines, they may be nervous, but they're going to be the essence of that part. And it was very clear to me that I was the essence of that part. So it was really exciting, because you get that. The best thing anybody will say is that phone call when someone says you got the part. It's the most exciting part of the process. So, I felt, I was a kid, I looked like a kid out of a cornfield. That's all I did was play kids. And I grew up in, suburban New Jersey. It used to be a cornfield. But, that's it. Like, I'm this guy, and then the rest is up to the gods. But so I was thrilled, like, beyond belief, because it was my first real job. But, I didn't think it came from out of nowhere.
Did you grow the hair long again?
Long, short, long, short.
Oh, okay.
Beard, no beard. Time passes.
Okay. Jane, I just want to have one question. David said that one word for Scott that he would say was unflappable. And I'm just wondering, you did so many physical scenes in your episode. Was there anything flappable? No, you know what I mean. Was there anything? Oh, bad.
She wants to know what was flapping.
No, was there anything that, kind of...
That threw Scott?
Well, like I said, there was a lot of physicality on your part, too.
That threw Scott?
Demanding
Is that
part.
what you're asking?
Yeah.
Was he flappable? No, he was unflappable.
Okay.
Just in every way. I don't think if you were to talk to the crew, he would ever lose his temper. He was always well rehearsed. He had reams of scripts, that sitting by waiting for his approval. It's not approval. I don't know if he had approval, but I remember that, you could see it outside of his Winnebago on the windows, scripts. And he said, I'm, working on next week's episode and that kind of thing. So,
I actually always thought he put him in the Winnebago window just to show off.
maybe. Could be.
I think he's
Look at
flappable.
what we're doing. Flappable, no. He was always just serene and happy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over on the other side.
Hi, my name is Joanne from Dana Point. And I was wondering, we all heard that Scott and Dean were practical jokers, and I wonder if that impacted any of you on any of your episodes. And if you have any stories you can tell us.
I have a story. Anyone else have a story? Well, do you have a story?
No.
Well, and it was not just those two, but the entire crew. So not only was I wearing that hideous 70s polyester dress the entire time, it stunk to high heavens because of the manure, not because of me. But I was also running everywhere in high heel shoes. And so at every opportunity, I would take my shoes off, and every time that they would get ready to roll, there would be a big tape ball in my toe. So I knew I was well loved on the set when I was also the butt of the joke there. It's like, okay, here goes Jane again. And then you have to pull it out and all the tape. So that was only what I experienced in working with those two. But one thing I loved is that Scott always called Dean, and I actually read that in the brochure. I didn't know that. I just thought he did. He always called him Happy. Hey, Happy, because he was always, he was grousing about, and I think it was the character that he was grousing about mostly in this episode. I don't think he really is that way. I didn't spend as much time with Dean in this episode.
Dean is absolutely like that.
He's like that? Is he grumpy? And I just love that Scott called him Happy all the time. Happy. Like, hello, Mr. Happy.
He never, I mean, getting him out of his trailer was really hard.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I adore, and now Dean I adore Dean, and I'm so sorry he's not coming, but he is one of the special men in the business, and that filthy cigar.
That cigar, yeah, and the ever-present golf swing.
Oh, all of that, and the mumbling, and the what are you saying? Well, I don't know. What do I say here? Well, I think you say this. Do you say that? Well, you ask me this question. I'm like, Scott, do I ask her a question? Yeah, happy, yeah. So, I mean, he was impossible. He came dragging out of his trailer. It was always a cloud of this noxious smoke. And it was, I mean, he was a gas. He was a joy. I adored him, but he definitely carried his personality on his shoulder, and I loved him. They had a wonderful relationship. I mean, that whole show, I did a couple of other ones with Don, and his shows are really quite lovely to work on. I mean, they take care of you, and it was an amazing show to work on. It was an amazing show to work on, and Scott was very definitely the barometer, and he was always kind, always courteous, and when you walked on a set as a guest star, they treated you well. They were polite. They came up to meet you. They came up and said hello. They put you. Everybody acknowledged you. It is not that way now. It's a very different way. But they were an amazing team, just amazing.
This isn't a response. I'm sorry.
Sorry, my darling.
This isn't a response to that question, but in terms of the capriciousness of the business, which was a question from earlier, Guy actually had left the business. He was selling real estate in New Mexico because he hadn't worked in a couple of years, and then he got Blue Velvet, and everything turned around.
Yep.
And so it's part of the up and down that David talked about.
He also taught me one of the most important things in acting, because when you would shoot a scene, you would shoot it once without Dean, and then they'd bring him back in. And it was my first job, and I had time, so we had a rhythm with how the dialogue went, right? But then you had to hold for Dean when Dean would come in, and they'd reshoot the scene. And I was locked in. I was like, this is the rhythm. And so I kept jumping on his line. And they'd be like, stop, cut, let Dean talk. And I was completely embarrassed. And they're like, okay, moving on. And I walked up and I said, Mr. Stockwell, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to jump on your line. I've never done that before. He goes, don't worry about my line. Just stay the hell out of my light. And that has served me incredibly well.
Thank you very much.
Adorable guy.
All right, you guys having a good time with these folks? They're just incredible. What a bunch of people. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kimberly from New York. I'm a big fan of all of yours, and especially Carol and Seymour. I am also a Trekkie, and I loved you in all Star Trek. And you weren't always a murderer or always a Romulan. You were a scientist in the First Contact who wanted what was best for your world and everything. I loved you as the Romulan commander. Because you weren't a murderer. You wanted what was best, what was right for...
I wanted what was right, absolutely.
But I actually was wondering about one of the other actors in the previous panel said how she was in 2 Quantum Leap episodes as 2 different characters, and she was worried that people would recognize her as the previous character, and you were Mrs. Stoltz, and then you were Zoe, and did you have that concern?
I personally didn't know. I left that to anybody, to the producers. Now, I mean, the dreadful housekeeper, coming to the surface in that pond in Silmar was like, I mean, I think that was a revenge episode that they decided to put me in. I mean, they had me weighted down in Victorian clothes underneath the water, and then suddenly the props guy, after I was almost drowning, had to let go of some string, and I was supposed to pop to the surface. Not possible in Victorian clothes. Very difficult. So, that was terrifying, and I was lying around in a load of sludge. And that was when I first met Deborah. But I never worry about that. People just used to expect me to be evil and nasty and tough, and and that's what I played, and so that's what we did. And you can put me in as often as you want in any series, as many times as you want, with as many different characters, and I'll say yes. It's fine by me.
Thank you. And Jane, I also just love you and Friends. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, other side.
I'm MJ from Texas.
Hi, MJ.
Hi. One of the things, this is more of a comment and instead of a question. one of the things that I do for a hobby is I write fan fictions, and every single one of you have been in one of the stories, I'm sure, for sure. Carolyn, you started off something in my life that I haven't been able to stop. I run a website called Quantum Retribution, and it's the other side of the evil coin. So we have Sam on one side and you're on the other, still battling with him. And we have fans from all over the world that just love it. So, and it's only because you made that character come alive. And David, you also
What'd I do?
have a big impact.
Am I in trouble?
No. Maybe. But thank you guys for so much. You made everything work out. It made it look also seamless. And we really do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's all
MJ, woo. MJ, are you the school teacher?
Yes.
Okay, she plays the shows in her classroom.
Yes.
Tell them that.
One of the things that I realized when I first started teaching high school was that Quantum Leap has a wonderful background to it. You can go into the racist card. You can go into any kind of card that you want. And it's all done tastefully. And there's so much heart in it that the kids look at it and they go, no way would I get into a dress like he just did.
Yeah.
Or no way would this ever happen, and yet it did happen in reality. And this is a way for them to go back and forth and see it happen. And I make them do all kinds of things with it. And when it comes to school, you have to find ways that will catch the kids' attention. And you guys definitely do that.
Oh, darling, you're obviously one of those magical teachers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Creative.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
My name is Melissa, and I'm from Virginia. And Mike, I want to thank you again for what you had said earlier on the previous panel about what you do with the military and everything. And again, thank you. David, this question is for you. I appreciate our military, and when you had mentioned earlier that you had went through some of the real Navy SEAL training and all, can you elaborate on that and what it was like for you and how it impacted your life? Because I love the SEALs, and how it impacted your life.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm working on this big crazy action movie on it as in the writing side of things over at Sony, and I work with a couple United States Marines as advisors, and I've developed other projects with the Navy and with nuclear subcommanders, and so I've actually spent oddly because I come from a very liberal family. It's been I kind of gotten my comeuppance, and I've cultivated a deep appreciation for all of these guys, and now come to rely on them, and a lot of them become my friends. But but Hell Week in Navy SEAL training is no fun. And I can imagine. It's the worst thing ever, and I did a very, very minimal version of it. I think it's just the same lesson over and over again. Just anytime you have a preconception about anything, you're going to get your butt handed to you. And the Rich, who was my advisor on that, and the guy who took me through training, and Don gave me a bunch of books, and then introduced me to a bunch of guys to work with. I was just completely humbled by the whole thing. I was humbled by their intelligence. I was humbled by their commitment. I was humbled by their eagerness to teach, and not teach in an authoritative way, but in a very empathetic, the idea of working as one mind, and also getting yourself tuned to such a point that your body can get through what you have to do, and your mind can get through what you have to do. It's kind of something that is really useful for this business. And life, I think. In fact, the guys that I'm working with now think, they say everybody should do 2 years of military training. Doesn't matter what your political point of view, doesn't matter, just so you understand. So, you know, and you could serve in that in a variety of capacities, obviously. But, you know, it's not, I mean, life gives you what you're supposed to get, and not always what you want to get. Like I said, I came into this town with a very strong opinion about all that, and I don't have that opinion anymore. I've been completely humbled by these guys, and I'm constantly impressed by their intelligence and their discipline, and they're funny. They have really dirty jokes for everything, don't they? Did I answer your question?
Yes, and all of you, thank you for your time and thank you for coming here. We also appreciate all of you very much.
Thank you.
And on that note, you'll get to appreciate them even more when you can get closer to them within 6 inches at least across the table as they work their way out to the next autograph session. But we'd like to give our heartfelt thanks to what you guys have done. The reason, like we said, and we continue to say, the reason that we are here is for you guys and what your contribution was to Quantum Leap. So we're happy to hear these stories, and we would love to hear more. But we're on a schedule, and I have people there that are telling me no. Okay? So without any further ado, let's say goodbye or see you later.
Thank you, guys.
To our current guest star panel, Michael Gregory, Gabe Tribbett, Ms. Tribbett, David Newsom, Jarrett Lennon, Carolyn Seymour, and Donna Magnani.
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 Magnani. Everybody say it. Magnani.
Magnani.